Really glad you're here to celebrate this milestone, and it is absolutely a milestone for the growth of the Marine Lab over the years. Thanks to everyone for being here, including someone who's going to Tarpon Bay Explorers. All right. Want to thank Paul Tritech, our federal partner in this, and be saying more about Paul, but Paul, stand up just so everyone knows you and you're here. To all the donors who made this possible, both from 2002 on and through the fundraising effort for the lab itself. It was a scramble for us. That included all our board members and many other members of the community, and especially you here who are joining us. I really appreciate your help getting us here. Also want to thank the Marine Lab staff to a person. Eric, is your whole gang out here? Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a chance to introduce them later. They've done yeoman's work in the lab since 2002, and I'll say a little bit more about them later. And our Marine Lab staff is led by Dr. Eric Milbrandt, who's here in the front row. Up there. So, quick history, thumbnail sketch. In 1988, the refuge manager then was Ron Height. They were in the midst of transforming this area, Tarpon Bay, the Tarpon Bay Recreation Area, I guess it was at the time. Is it still? Still is. From a very commercial site. There was a gas dock, there was a clothing store, there was a shell shop, and transforming that to what you see today, much more in keeping with the refuge. I was down here one day and there was a bulldozer on the site, and I said, "Ron, where's it going?" He says, "It's going to the shell shop next." And I said, would you be willing, if we were to convert the pole barn that was on the end of the shell shop into a building and keep the front part, to convert that for water quality work or other uses we might have? And long story short, that ended up happening, and we dedicated what was then the Barrier Island Research Laboratory back in 1988. It went through lots of different iterations from 1988 to 2002. And in 2002, that was a time when everyone started to awaken to the mismanagement of water in this area. We were starting to see releases back then, even in 2000, and then again in 2002. We started to wake up to the fact that if we didn't have good information about the waters that surrounded us, we would be lost later. And I have a quote, I have one quote up on my wall in my office, as it says, it's old Chinese proverb. It says, "The best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago, and the next best time is today." And that's how we felt then. We felt like we were already 10 years behind when we started to work on water quality issues in 2002. But we said, at some point, now it's 14 years later, at some point, we will amass enough information to start to make a difference. So we talked about that. The board went back and forth about the process of beginning or establishing a real formal marine laboratory, and we decided to. So in 2002, we also said we need to be stable financially for at least 5 years to get this up and running. We need to be able to have a director come in and know he's got a budget, and to be able to grow the marine laboratory. So we decided that we would undertake a $2 million 5-year startup fundraising effort. And we were successful. We were successful primarily because of one person who's sitting here in the front row. Her name's Gretchen Valade. Many of you have heard her name or see her name attached to our challenge grant that she's been providing us for our annual fund drive. Those of you that have been here longer might have attended a Burt Bacharach concert or a Dionne Warwick concert at Barbara Mann to help us fundraise for SCCF. That was Gretchen's work. When Gretchen was 72, I think I'm right, She started Mac Avenue Records, which is a jazz record label. Has been working on that ever since. She's, I have to give you a flavor of her other life. She lives in Detroit, Grosse Pointe Farms, just north of Detroit. She is an integral part of the Detroit Jazz Festival and making it happen each year. I was just asking them how it went this year. They said the weather was wonderful. But they take the entire downtown of Detroit and convert it into jazz concert venues. And goes on for 4 days. It's just incredible. Anyway, Gretchen became a very good friend of the Marine Lab and the Foundation in 2002 when we were raising money to start the establishment of the Marine Lab. I'm so appreciative, Gretchen. You made this happen. Gretchen, I'm going to put a plug in for Gretchen also. Gretchen owns Sweet Melissa's. They just put in a neat new bar you're going to have to go see when it opens again. If you haven't been to Sweet Melissa's, you need to go.
Yeah, great bar.
And if you go to...
Just move on over there.
And even better food.
Oh, no.
She also has a very impressive restaurant in Grosse Pointe Farms called the Dirty Dog Cafe, with jazz music 7 days a week, 2 shows a night. She's there every night. It's awesome. Over the past 14 years, which is hard to believe, Eric, who's been here 12 of those, right? The lab staff has really developed a very well-respected, very credible scientific presence in the region, in the state, and nationally. And I'm going to let Eric tell you a little bit about what's going on. But the growth of the lab from 0 to 14 years later is amazing in terms of recognition and published papers and the ability for us to react to environmental issues. They feed Rayanne Wessel with the information she needs to go out and fight the good fight in meetings and in regulatory discussions and legislative offices. But over the years, as activities have increased, the space and the condition of the building has become limiting, or was becoming limiting over the years. And also Fish and Wildlife Service, because we're on Fish and Wildlife Service property. Fish and Wildlife Service would do annual inspections, and each year they'd find that, you know, the old shell shop and pole barn that's hidden underneath the facade there of the Marine Lab was really aging rapidly. So that said, and with that background, one day Paul Tritech came to me and said, Eric, we want to build you a new marine laboratory. What do you want? Well, that was quite a moment. I mean, that was a real moment. If there's a definition of a moment, what that could mean, that was one. You know, for me, it said so much about the value that Fish and Wildlife Service and Paul placed on the work of the Marine Lab, and also, you know, how tremendous a partner we have for that. So I'll never forget that day. Okay, fast forward to today. We have plans for a new 2,500 square foot green building that'll be elevated where you sit. There'll be a 3rd level room and deck that should be high enough, we'll see, to look out into Tarpon Bay from here. Also, I mentioned donors and the importance of the work you did. We raised and provided Fish and Wildlife Service with $429,000 for the structure, and the Fish and Wildlife Service has put in a little over $1 million for the structure. So, great partner underlined. We're so grateful when Paul said, what do you want? He really meant it. Fish and Wildlife Service staff and the folks, the architectural staff and the contractors who have all been part of bringing us to this point and plans have involved our staff. The Marine Lab staff have had input all along. Eric has spent a lot of time looking at plans, and we've been in all the meetings leading to this point for construction. So we're very grateful, Paul, for you and your colleagues and for your initial what do you want and following that up. Just tremendous. And with that, I'd like to ask Paul if he'd like to come up and say a few words. I would let you know that that is not alive.
Well, it's a great honor to be a part of this partnership that, as you mentioned, goes all the way back to 1988, and it's in keeping with an edict of ours, and that's to work closely with partners to try to achieve as much conservation as we can, because we can't do it ourselves, and the resources we have are so limiting. And when I saw that we had an opportunity to really expand on our partnership and provide even better facilities to do the work that the Marine Lab scientists are doing, which benefits the refuge. It's not only gathering critical information on our marine ecology, but it's also very valuable information for me and for the refuge staff for us to make management decisions and look at long-term trends and things like that. So the work that Eric and his Marine Lab scientists are doing is very valuable to the work that we do. And so we wanted to continue that partnership. And when I came here in 2008, I realized that, you are already working under challenging conditions. The building roof was leaking, and you're already limited in terms of space, and we're patching things up here and there, put on a new roof and things like that. But we knew that that wasn't really the solution. What we needed was a new building. So I put in a capital improvement project it was a deferred maintenance project, but it basically required replacing the building with a new building. And I was very fortunate to get the support in the regional office for us to do that, because they also recognized the value of the partnership that we had here. And so I wanted to thank you, Eric, and your staff, and all of you donors who contributed to this tremendous effort. It wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for your support, because even though it sounds like we're contributing a lot, if we were just to build a building with the appropriations that we had, it would be a bare bones building. What you've been able to do is provide the funds necessary to give Eric what he needs to make it a marine lab, a functioning marine lab. And so we're very grateful for your contribution in making that happen. Is very, very significant, and we look forward to working closely together. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Paul. It's great to stand before all of you. It's such an exciting day for me and for the staff. I think I want to just emphasize that I've been given a tremendous opportunity with great staff to be able to make a difference on Sanibel and Captiva. And a few things, examples of that I want to mention. As Eric teed up for me, we have built a real-time water quality monitoring system that's awesome. We can go to the agencies, we can show them the trends, we can talk about estuary conditions, we can talk about the conditions of the seagrass in the refuge. So it's really awesome. In fact, Francis Rooney, the winner of the primary, is going to be here on Monday to go out with us and learn about some of the ways that we're informing the water management community and our fellow scientists. You've probably been hearing in the news a lot this week. There is some evidence of red tide, a pretty strong one. We've been getting a lot of phone calls, and it's moving south. But one of the things we do is count red tide cells. When it's here, we counted a lot of beaches, a lot of places, so we can tell people when they call where to go. So that monitoring complements some of our work with the in-water real-time system. It, again, allows us to react and be proactive, hopefully. A couple projects that I do want to mention. We were able to give the folks on Captiva Island some guidance a few years ago. We sampled groundwater and surface water in septic areas and sewered areas and showed them the results. I think they were pretty surprised to find out that their septic systems were affecting the coastal waters in the bays. So they're still discussing what they're going to do moving forward, but hopefully they'll be moving towards a sewered system in the future. We took that model onto Sanibel and are now developing with Vice Mayor Denham the comprehensive nutrient management plan, and that involved a lot of new sampling, a lot of new analysis and science, but also analysis of existing data. And that has been very collaborative, along with the collaborative efforts within the refuge and being able to show the effects of high flows on seagrass and water quality within the refuge. So the last thing, and we've been able to make a difference in terms of creating, restoring habitat. It's one of my passions. We've totally transformed Clam Bayou. If you've been there 10 years ago and went back today, you'd see it's a thriving place. It's awesome. And last year, with the help of Paul, we were able to get permission and funding from the DEP to build oyster reefs, and we built some big oyster reefs, the biggest built in this area by far. So we hope to continue all of that work moving forward in this great brand new facility, and look forward to working through the next year, and want to just tell the donors thank you for making it all possible for us.
Oh, it's just cooling down. So we expect construction to be complete, Dominic, to be complete in the fall of 17. It would be nice if we were in this same site, but up another 14 feet this time next year. We're really looking forward to that possibility. Dominic, I can't pronounce your last name. Wicklincy. From Holland Engineering and General Contractors is here. Holland is a contractor for the job. Their trailer's in the parking lot. That was a cue. It's just awesome. Anything we can do to help, we will appreciate your efforts. I missed that. Oh yeah, right. Line 1 in the contract. Agree to, yeah, stay out of the way. That time would fit in very nicely with the October 31st date in 2017, which represents our 50th anniversary. So we're looking forward to the potential of having the dedication happen within the 50th year. That would be just amazing. So if you've been watching, got a great website for you. It's called spaghettymodels.com. And it is one guy who's amassed every chart, every map, every report having to do with hurricanes or tropical storms and put it on one site. It's awesome. So if you're watching that, you'll note that Hurricane Matthew is out there. Keep thinking, go east, go east, go east. Which reminds me, Paul said something about, limping through and keeping this building going. Well, after Hurricane Charlie, Rob Jess was the refuge manager. He got me in here day 2 after the storm, and we drove in here and we drove up about halfway between here and the building, and Rob looked over at me and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Eric, it's still here."
Everything else good.
Me too. I'm not sure what fund would have done that or how that would have worked, but
Same fund that built the concession building.
all right. So that was too bad. But we're there again. I'm putting on my executive director's hat now. Between now and October of 17, we do have to equip this structure. The fundraising we've done to date doesn't include all the equipment we need and the furnishings that we need. So between now and then we will be contacting folks to help us with that effort. We're already looking at grant possibilities and foundations and other places that we can obtain those funds, but we know we are going to need donor support as well. Some of the equipment that's on that list will enable us to do our work at the lab. We use several different laboratories to process samples. Obviously they're all off island and a long way away, so there's a time drain for staff to get the samples to them. There's special preparations since they're traveling so far. They have to be cooled or otherwise preserved. It will help us immensely in processing samples on site, and I think probably the refuge in the city and maybe even the county for Captiva doing samples, their bacterial samples on a regular basis that we'd be able to help with. So, we really want to make, as we're doing this, the building's great, but the work it does is what it's about. So we need to make sure we can do that. All right. So, Paul, you and I have a task. It's another milestone, unveiling this sign. It's just to recognize those that help bring us to this milestone and give people who travel to the site. And in the middle of October there may be pilings laying here and pilings being pounded, and people are going to come in and wonder what's going on, so we thought we'd give them something to look at. So drum roll, please.